Our friend Sarah Longwell is launching a new project around these issues. It's called Home of the Brave. She's encouraging all of these people impacted to speak out about the damage Donald Trump has done to them. Take a look.
We say America is home of the brave. So why are so many people caving to this wannabe dictator? Law firms, media companies, universities, tech oligarchs are all buckling when threatened by Donald Trump and his administration. These elite cowards might be caving, but not us. We're Americans, and we aren't intimidated. So let's do what the cowardly elites won't. Stand up and say something. We're collecting stories about how this administration is hurting people like you. Visit ofthebrave.org now to share yours. Let's remind Trump why America is still the home of the brave.
I love this campaign. We're back with Sarah, Tim, and Basil. Sarah is a member of the advisory board and spokesperson for Home of the Brave. Sarah, tell us about this campaign.
Well, Nicole, look, you and I talk about it a lot on this program, how important it is for people to speak out. I mean, one of the features of Donald Trump's sort of regime, his tenure over the last 8 years, has been watching people go quiet in the face of his threats, in the face of the menace that he often projects, you know, and the way that he has threatened retaliation has caused all of these different American institutions, including media companies and the tech companies and universities, to go quiet, to cower in the face of his threats. And so the only choice now is for regular people to stand up and say something. You saw it with the No Kings protests. And look, when Tim and I are out on the road for the Bulwark and we're doing live shows, people always ask the same question. What can I do? What can I do in this moment? I'm so scared. I'm so panicked. And I say, use your voice. That's what you've got, your voice and your vote. And so telling the stories of the negative personal consequences that people are experiencing as a result of Trump's policies is the way to help people understand why Donald Trump has failed them, has betrayed them, has lied to them. And hopefully by regular Americans standing up and telling their stories, it will give the necessary courage. You know, we talk about courage being contagious, the necessary courage to a lot of the cowards in our elite institutions who have caved to this guy because they don't want to, you know, get crosswise with shareholders or alumni or whatever their reasons. They're not good ones. And so it's up to patriotic Americans now to tell their stories and stand up and hope that other people will follow their lead. And that's what this campaign is about. Come tell us your stories. Go to ofthebrave.org. Tell them. We'll help amplify them. We'll make sure people see them. And through that, we'll help people understand how this administration is failing this country.
I had Alejandro Barranco on yesterday at 5 o'clock. His father was the weed whacker who was at work doing his landscaping job when the armed ICE agents arrested him and beat him, and according to him and his son, dislocated his shoulder and then left him without health care. And I had this thought interviewing him about how much more exposed he was, right? Like, I work at a company that is an infrastructure for our coverage. He is a person whose father suffered at the hands of ICE, and he came on our show and talked about it. And I wonder, Sarah, what the phenomenon is, as you understand it right now, that is inverted courage, where you've got the people with the most to lose displaying the most extraordinary acts of courage, and the people in the safest and most comfortable spaces doing less.
Oh, it is. I don't know quite how to explain it, because to me it is unfathomable how people who have so much, to whom this country has given so much, have decided to take Donald Trump. And this didn't happen in his first term. Like, in his first term, I remember watching Republican elected officials cave to him, but a lot of members of civil society stood up. I mean, the tech sort of the oligarchs, whatever, they weren't in his pocket back then. Jeff Bezos was standing up to him back then. Like, everybody, or at least wasn't cowering in front of him. But I think when Donald Trump ran explicitly on a platform of retribution, that was all it took for so many of these media companies to say, well, you know, I've got a merger that I've got to get done. Or law firms that say, I don't know, our mergers and acquisitions business, we can't stand to lose this. And so we're going to not stand up for the rule of law, the process that literally we are here to defend. So the only thing that I can think is that Donald Trump has been corroding and corrupting our society now for almost a decade. And I think it is, what you're seeing is it take a toll. And there is only one antidote. And the only antidote is regular people saying, we are not going to do this. We're not going to let all of you buckle to him. You guys want to be afraid of him? Fine. Even if we're a little scared, we're still going to speak up, because that's what America's all about. You know, that is what this country, it's how it was founded. It has been the through line of our history, and it's what it's going to take now to put Trump on the back of his heels, to lower his approval ratings. And you know what? This is one thing I know about communications. People don't trust the elites anymore, but they do trust each other, regular Americans, explaining how this impacts them. And that is the way we're going to turn the narrative about that Donald Trump around. It's the way you're going to weaken him, lower his approval ratings, and make sure that this term of his is unsuccessful, a deep failure. And that's how you keep MAGA from being the law of the land going forward.
I want to see more of it. I could talk to you about this for the whole 2 hours. Let me play more from your testimonials.
Hi, my name is Laurie LaPlante. I'm a veteran. I was in the Navy for 10 years. My husband is also a veteran. He was a submarine officer. My father-in-law was a 3-star admiral. My father-in-law passed away in January, and we're still waiting to have his funeral at Arlington. A lot of it is because of the cuts that the Trump administration has done at the Veterans Affairs, so that is really delaying things. And it's just heartbreaking. Everyone wants to put him to rest and to move on and remember his life and legacy, but we can't. It's very frustrating. I wish the Trump administration, as much as they say they care about the vets and want to take care of the vets, they're not doing it.
Sarah, it seems that we should abandon talking about things like red lines in our politics, because Trump has just danced back and forth over what was once a red line in our politics, and that is respect, reverence for our veterans.
Yeah, but this is also a through line about Trump. I mean, Trump is not a person who served. He is a person who wants the army to be his own personal, ego-driven sort of event for his birthday, like birthday party. He is not somebody who's shown reverence. You know, he called them suckers and losers. We know from what, you know, obviously the generals are one of the groups of people I would like to see speak out so much more often than they have. But what little we know has come from people like General Kelly, who tell us about the absolutely crazy things that Donald Trump has said about our veterans. Like, he has no idea what it means to sacrifice, no idea what it means to have somebody who's deeply important to you and want to be able to bury them with the legacy that they deserve because they served this country, and have them not be able to get somebody on the phone to do the burial because Donald Trump. And this is where, look, the cuts that a lot of people can't see, touch, and feel, they are touching people in lots of ways. But they don't always have a place to tell the story about how it's affecting them. And this might not be something somebody would think of when Doge was going around making all these cuts. And that's why it's important to tell these stories from these people about the way in which they are no longer have just the general services that is due to them as a family of veterans who have served this country. Donald Trump has made it clear he doesn't care about veterans, and I think it's time that people telling these stories help Americans sort of see through the emperor has no clothes way that Donald Trump tries to use the military as a political prop, but then doesn't actually take care of people who've actually served.
Sarah, do us this favor. As people come forward for the Home of the Brave campaign and mission, offer them a seat at our table any day that they would like to join us, because I think the pro-democracy side has to do a better job than it's done over the last 9 years of lifting up these voices, and I think this work is so important. Thank you so much for joining us to tell us about it. Tim and Basil, stick around a little bit longer.